Hey guys, this is Chodaros Bling, Chodaros Designs. It's Chodaro. Got a new tutorial for you today. It's super awesome because who would have thought 6 months ago or 3 months ago we would be making such a gorgeous cuff bracelet with a hook. This was designed by the great MS Loom. So it is all done with a hook, bands, 2 chain links, and some beads. So it's really not that difficult. Just need to have some supplies ready before we begin. So this is the front of the bracelet, and carefully turn it inside out, and this is what the underside looks like, which to me, I think it is just as nice. I don't see why I wouldn't wear it that way. So I just going to give you a 2-second overview. There are different kinds of chains that you can use, but the chains that I have used are these chains right here. They're 1/4 inch accent link chains. Okay, these are flat, as you can see. They are not they can get twisted, but they are not a chainmail type of bracelet. So with it being all, every one of them laying flat, we can loom them into the design. And they do come in different colors. This bracelet in particular I had bought at Hobby Lobby, and it came as is. It does not have clasps at the end, but it has 25 links, and 25 links fits my wrist just right. So if you buy this on a spool, or if you buy one bigger, you simply just fit it to your wrist, and if need be, each one of these links can be taken off to accommodate your wrist size. If you are under 18, please ask for your parents' help and permission to use any such tools to remove a link. So we will need 2 of these of the same length, and the specific one that I chose to use today unfortunately does not fit the loom hook, so I will be using a 3mm crochet hook, and that fits in there just fine. If you do not have a 3mm crochet hook, you can always simply just take a band and squeeze it and then push it through the link like that. Okay, so we need 2 of these chains, and they will go on both sides, and you need as many beaded bands as you have links in your chain. So I have 25 links in my chain. I needed 25 beaded bands. Okay, so if your chain happens to have 30 links, then you would need 30 beaded bands. The colors that I chose to use are on the border bands out here, they are the silk, I think they're baby pink, but they are the silk bands. The bands that I used on the chain, they are the Egyptian brown or the pearl brown, but they're the silicone, and they work really, really well looming on the chain because they're silicone, hence sticky. You do want to really consider that when you're doing that part of the bracelet. And all of my beads are 6mm, which in this case is the only size that you can use. In trying 8mm earlier, they all crowded up like that. Okay, so 8mm would be too big, but the band color that I used on my beads is the light pink in the sweets. You will need multiple C-clips. We need 2 to close, but as we're looming it, you might want to have about 4 handy, just in case you'd like to throw one here or there. So why don't we grab all of our supplies and we'll get started. Okay, so for some reason I had already done the clip to show you how to add the slip stitch to this bracelet, but for some reason it must have deleted. So since I have already completed the bracelet, I have 2 silver chains, so this is the only part of the tutorial that will be out of sync as far as color, but I'm going to show you just with these chains here. And I am using the brown, is it Persian or Egyptian brown, but they're sticky, and so that's what we want because it will stick to the chain good. So I want to take my chain and I want gravity to constantly show me the straight pattern, okay? If I try to hold it like this, it'll make it crinkled or not. But what I like to do is I like to stick a band down here, and this will keep me as a guide in case I get twisted. I know that this is the front of my chain, so that way if I end up somehow, you know, and if it's twisted like that, then I can look and say, yeah, that's the back side. So I want to take this on its side, and on the whole time that we're going to be adding this stitch, you kind of want to hold it where it's, you can guide it to stay straight, but after a while it will stay like that. So the only hook that I can use is a 3mm crochet hook. The Rainbow Loom hook is just a tad too big to fit through these links. Okay, so it's just a basic slip stitch. So we're going to put our hook in and grab our band, pull that band through, and just do a slip knot like that. And don't want to pull it tight. There's no reason to make it tight. So again, making sure that our chain is straight, I want to go over to the next link, stick my hook in, grab our next band, and pull that band through the link and recapture it. But this time I have these 2 loops and I want to pull both of them over my hook to make my slip stitch like that. Again, I want to make sure that your links are staying straight, and again into that next link. So this is just the basic pattern. We've done it a lot with the single chain bracelets that are made out of rubber bands. So it's not a new technique. But like I said, at least for me, and I know for MS Loom had mentioned the same as well, is just making sure that you keep your chain straight. It is very easy for it to become tangled or twisted, and the type of chain also will have a big deal as to, you know, the difficulty on keeping it straight. Okay, and it works out really, really well, which MS Loom had already suggested as she used the Egyptian bands or the Persian because of the silicone and it's sticky. And I believe she said she also tried to use the LE and they just didn't stay correct. They didn't stay right, which I can imagine because they're the type of bands that are, they don't like to get tangled or stick, so they may not hold that slip knot as well. But we'll see. So I think you guys kind of got the hint there on how this is to be done. Now as we're stitching this, if you're stitching it the same, holding it the same way that I am, we are stitching the front of the bracelet. Okay, see that's the slip stitch right there. Now if you turn it over, You can see those lines that are coming down diagonally. This is the back of your bracelet. Okay, so excuse me, we are going to do this on 2 chains. Okay, so once we get this chain complete, you need to go ahead and do the exact same for your second chain. And that's when we will meet back up to start adding the beaded bands. So we're going to have a bit of a break here in between so we can complete all of that. Okay, and you see how I'm holding it? I'm holding it straight over here, and then I'm kind of pulling it just a tad just to make sure that my links are straight on this side as well. So again, every time you pull that band through the chain, you always recapture it and then pull over the other loops. Okay? Alright, so this is what you should have, and it should be completely straight. There shouldn't be any bumps. And it might, you know, kind of sit like that, but that's okay. So in this break, we need to complete this all the way to the end. And when you come to the end, all you're going to do is put a C-clip, just like I am right here. We'll act like this is the end, and I'm just going to put a C-clip on this one band. So that's all you're going to do to finish off this stitch on this chain. And then you're going to come over to this chain and do the exact same thing, holding it straight. You can put your guide band on there, and then just doing that slip stitch all the way down. Okay, so that needs to be completed before we move on to the next step. Also, as I had mentioned before, you will need to have your bands beaded, and again, you need to bead as many bands as you have links. So in my case, my bracelet has 25 links, so I needed 25 beaded bands. If yours has 28 links, you will need 28 beaded bands. Okay, so go ahead and finish that up, have your beaded bands ready, and we will meet back here for the next step. Okay, so now you should have both of your chains with your slip stitch border. And as you can see, as I'm holding them, they're both excuse me, facing right side up. So now we're just going to take one of them and we're going to work through the back of the chain. So again, the front side has your slip stitch going down, and then the back side has somewhat of a diagonal band. So we're going to start where we started in the beginning, the opposite end of your C-clip, and you can use your rainbow loom hook for this part. So we are going to be adding the beads now, and we're only going to be looming one side of the bead through. Where we're going to stick our hook in each time will be in between each slip stitch. So in other words, it's pretty much in between each link. Okay, so the first one, yeah, it's a little bit jumbled, but you want to go right here, which will kind of pull it apart, and you see there's a gap there. So there's your first link and there's your second link. You want to stick your hook in between, so your hook is between the stitch and the chain. Okay, and then we're simply just going to take one of our beaded bands, and it's very important that all your beaded bands are in the middle of the band. Okay, you don't want to have it like that, because we are going to be doing the same exact step using the other side of that band. So you want to make sure it's in the middle. So you're just going to put the one side of the beaded band on your hook, slide it underneath that slip stitch, reconnect it, and create a slip knot. Oh, I'm sorry. No, Christy, no. all we're going to do is slide it under. Okay, so we're going to leave that part of our band on our hook, and then we're going to go into the next slot. So again, remember, it's in between each link, in between each slip knot. So right there, you want to enter again, grab your next beaded band and place that on your hook and slide that underneath. And then this time we want to add that first loop on our hook over top like that, which kind of locks in that first beaded band. Okay, so then again we want to go to the next spot, which is in between the links here. And stick your hook through, grab a beaded band, and pull that through. And then again, we want to add the furthest loop over here over top of our hook, like that. And you might want to, it is okay to kind of pull it a little bit taut, because it is going to try to curl up on you. So it's okay to pull these a little bit. But that's basically what we're going to be doing for both, the whole way down this bracelet. So again, your next spot is in between those two links, adding a beaded band, bringing it through, and then pulling this loop over the hook, giving it a little tug. So it's pretty simple. But you still want to make sure that you're always staying with that back, because this can turn. You want to make sure you're staying in the back of that chain. And excuse me, you don't have to worry about holding on to the other side of your band, because your bead is placed up against the chain, which keeps it in place after you pull it through. And we can go a little bit faster. Okay, so this is what you should have so far. Okay, you're making teardrop shapes in the back where you're looming it back there. And this is what the opposite side will look like. It's just your beads up against your chain and the other part of the loop sticking up. So again, going into that next, in between that slip stitch, and see this one here, I need to move it over to make it even. So we got about halfway done here. You guys can go ahead and we'll finish up the rest of our bracelet, and I'll meet you back down here by the C-clip. Okay? Okay, so we should be right here at the end. So I have this last link here to go, and you can see that little gap right there. That's where I'm going to stick my hook in and place my last beaded band. So if you beaded the same amount of bands that you have links, you should have the exact amount to finish. And now all I'm going to do is take this other end of this band on my hook and stick it through that existing C-clip. Okay, so again, it's going to curl up a little bit. That's normal. You can kind of stretch it out a little bit. Another thing is, if you're really big on bands not being twisted, you can kind of go through, which this will be the back side of the bracelet, but still you could kind of do the artisan loom technique, which is kind of pulling and twisting to try to get them straightened out. Okay, so once you have that done, then our next step is to grab the other chain that we added that slip stitch to, and we are going to connect the two chains together through the beaded bands. Okay, so we have all of our beads on this chain, and now it's time to add the other side of the beaded band to our other chain. So it may not be a big deal to you guys, but for some reason it's always a challenge for me. But we just need to make sure that both sides end up together, meaning this is the back of the bracelet, and when we turn this over, the front of the bracelet should have that slip knot on both sides of the bead. Okay, so in order for that to happen, we need to start with the beaded chain facing down. So this is the back, and knowing how we need to loom that stitch, we need to have this one facing down as well. Okay, so it would be starting with the connected end, which would be if you added one of the bands to keep your place. So we just want to, again, you want to stick your hook in between those chains underneath that stitch right there, and then we want to come up. Now this side here has our band from the border, so we can go ahead and grab that one, put that on there as well, and then we want to grab this side of that beaded band, and it's kind of tricky in the beginning because it's not very stable, but we just want to simply pull it through. Okay, so once we have that through, we want to go to the next part, which is in between the next two chains, and stick our hook through, reach down, grab our next beaded band, and just like we did on the opposite chain, same steps, we're taking that beaded band down through, if I can get it on my hook, and then slide that existing loop on top, like that. So then we go down to the next one, beaded band, slide it under, just like that. Okay, so it's again the same process as we did adding the beaded band. We're just connecting the other side to the other chain, and the only thing that you just need to be cautious of is making sure that both of your bracelets are facing the correct way, so when we are completed, that they are both right side up. Okay, so you can see after you get the first few down, you see how they're matching up. You have those teardrops, they're both on the back, and carefully want to turn it around And ta-da! We have our switch loops or slip knots on both sides of the bead. Okay, so it's a little bit easier now that you have some stability. So again, just going down in between the slip stitch, grabbing the next chain in line and pulling it under and through that loop. And you do want to make sure that you are grabbing it exactly in the right spot, or you might end up in the end with not enough beads. So you can't skip any spots or double in one place or whatnot. So it's pretty simple. All your stability is in place. You're not having to worry about your chain flipping, your beads coming off your bands. Pretty simple looming technique. And again, the only band type that has been suggested for this bracelet is that you might want to use a silicone type of band for the band that you are weaving onto the actual chain in the beginning, so it is slippery enough to stay into place. You know what's going on. We just have a few left to do, and then I can start you on the border, and then we can meet back up for the second half of the border. Can be a little confusing, I say. I hope not for you guys, but sometimes my brain thinks differently. Okay, so I want to take and add in the C-clip this pink band here to help tie that one off. Okay, so this is what you should have so far. Excuse me, which the whole center is loomed. Okay, so here's the back side. So it kind of sits up like that. And again, make sure on your front side that your slip knot or your slip stitch is on both sides of your bead, and that way you know that you have it correctly. Okay, so now all we need to do is add our border. So I'm going to come down to this end here, and it's super simple. So we're just going to stick our hook into the first chain link here. And I'm going to use the pink silk. And we're going to pull a band through there, like that. And then we're going to chain 1. And then we're going to go into the next, oopsie, I need my smaller hook. And then we're going to go into the next chain in line and repeat that. So we're going to pull a band through the chain and recapture, leaving these 2 bands alone back there. And then we're going to take another band and just chain 1 through the one we just added to our hook. So that way when we complete, we have the same like that. And then all we need to do is add 1 band and put all 4 loops on top of it and close it up. So this will be the process the entire way up and the other side of your bracelet. So you have 2 loops on your hook. You're going to stick your hook into the next link, leave these 2 loops alone, just pull a band through the chain and close it up. Now just pull a band through that chain you just loomed, close it up. Once you have 4 loops on your hook, pull all 4 loops onto a new band and close it up. So into the next, chain 1, chain 2, 4 loops on top of a new band. So chain 1, chain 2, 4 loops on top of a new band. Alright, so you can see here, if you're doing it correctly, on the top you should have some teardrops forming, and then you should also have some teardrops coming off of the chain. So I'll do a couple more with you, and then you guys can finish up this side. We'll meet down at the end. I think it's a pretty simple stitch. Just kind of matching up what you already have on your hook. Alrighty. I think you guys can finish this side here. Just go all the way up until you reach the cap band or the C-clip. And if you did get confused in doing this stitch, feel free to rewind and you can watch the instructions over again. But if not, then I'll meet you back up here. Alright, so we reached the end of our bracelet, and all I did here was we had this brown band in a C-clip, so I just took the C-clip out, and we ended with this band right here with our border, and I just simply took this new band and slid everything on top of it. So now everything is joined together. So I'm just going to add my C-clip for the time being to close this end up. Yes, this end of my bracelet is just a tad off, as I had to fix it as much as I could while filming. So in order to end up on the same side as this right here, we want to flip our bracelet over and start looming up from this chain here. And again, following the exact same steps as we already did on adding this border. So you're going to stick your bands, make 2 chains, go into your next link, pull 1 band through that link, and you want to pull another band through just that one there. We have 4 loops on our hook, and then we want to pull all those loops onto 1 band. Okay, go into the next one, just pull a band through the link, and then just pull a band through that last chain. 4 loops on your hook equals all 4 on top of a new band. Okay. Pretty simple. And I think I might have mentioned it before, but if not, the good thing is that the border looks the same on both sides. So when it comes to having to turn your bracelet a certain way, it's not a necessity for this border. Okay, so again, that's what you should have. So go ahead and finish up the border along this side of the bracelet, and then we will meet back here at the end to close it up. Okay, so we should be at the end of our second chain of border, and I'm sure you noticed that as we loomed up this part of the bracelet, it did stick, the inside part kind of sticks up in the middle. So I'm going to do the same as I did on this side. So we're done here with our border, and we have these 2 bands. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to stick my hook back into that chain right there. Okay, and then grab another color of the border band and stick it through that chain. Actually, before I stick it through that chain, I want to do a slip knot. There we go. Okay, so we stuck it through that link of that chain, and then I want to take that last band and slip it over. And now we have, just like on this side, we have 2 chains, or 2 loops. So we want to take another C-clip, and we want to add that to this side here. Okay, so both of our C-clips are right there by our chain. Okay, so if you have to put it in order a little bit, go ahead and do so. But as I mentioned, this is the back side and it sticks out, so let's reveal the front. Ta-da! This is the front of our bracelet. So one thing you could just keep an eye out for is that the beaded bands, if they're a little bit crooked, you might just want to slide them over, because we did a little bit of pulling when we were adding our border and such. But you should see that you have your beads in the middle, and both sides, on both sides of your beads, you have that slip knot. Okay, and then your chain, and then your border. So this is 25 links on the chain, and it is almost fitting to me, but because we have 2 C-clips on the end, how you would close it off is just adding the C-clip to these two bands that we have on the other end of our chain. So you're going to have two closings. If I can get it. There we go. And voila. Our bracelet is complete. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Big shout out, thank you to MS Loom again for just a wonderful design. Who would have thought 6 months ago we would be creating a bracelet as gorgeous as this with a hook, a couple chains, and some beaded bands? Not me. So thank you again for joining. Make sure that you click on the links below and hashtag your renditions. Show us on Instagram and Facebook. Can't wait to see what color and kind of chain you use and types of beads and bands. So again, it warms my heart every time you guys stop in and check out a tutorial. So I thank you. See you next time. Bye-bye.